of Jesus. Yes, yes, oh, the blood of Jesus. And oh, the blood of Jesus. It must not suffer loss. Ooh, it must not. Come on in. It must not suffer loss. Yeah. Hey, I want to talk about this thing with the brother George Floyd, his death, and why is it that he called out his mother's. Well, he didn't call a name. He didn't call a name, but he said mommy. Why did he do that? Let's talk about this and unpack it, shall we? Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj, the Sirwalterj Jones Show. I'm here. It is the midday connection, baby. How y'all is? Come on in. Water. It's all right. It's all right. I want to talk about this thing here. It is something that is gripping to many. Some of you have noticed it, saw the video. I don't like watching the video. It is very disheartening to watch. It causes a deep root of well of emotions to come out and spill out over into the public. Blessings to you, Donald Trent, Michelle Hollins, Casey. Blessings to you, Belinda, a whole bunch of y'all here. Okay, good to see all of you on YouTube and Facebook here. I want to unpack this in a psychological way as much as possible. It shouldn't take long to do that, because we need to see why do people transition the way they do. And many of us do this when we think we're getting ready to die. I know that when I was younger, when I thought I was getting ready to die, or when I was at what we may call deathbed, because I've been to the deathbed a couple times. All right, some of y'all might see some of the scars on my face. I was stabbed severely. All right, where is it? Right here. There's a cut here, and you can see that cut goes all the way across. All right, my beard covers up the rest of it. It goes all the way across. All right, I have a knife wound in my chest. I have a knife wound in my back. All right, and somebody's getting ready to take me out of here in the streets of Chicago back in the 1980. I don't know, 88. Yeah, 1988, December 24, 1988. December 21, 1988. And I saw my life flash before me. Who did I think about? Mom. Whose name did I call in my spirit? I didn't call it out of my mouth like George did, but it was Mom. And why was that important for me to call Mom? Or why did I think to call her when I felt that I was getting ready to die? You are the end time Richard Pryor in the clean. Robert, come on, evangelist. All right. So why did I think to call my mom? All right. Because psychologically, and I'm gonna read some things that I did discover by talking to some psychologists. All right, and those who operate in that area there. But I want to remind you that it depends on how we were raised and how close we were to, depending on which parent it was. Whether you was close to your mother or whether you was close to your father determined who you referred back to. You might not have been close to either one of them. You might have been closer to your best friend, and that might have been the person. If you're married, you might have been calling out your husband or your wife. I have a book that I often reference called The Birth Order. Yes, Pamela, we're live. Yeah, I have a book called The Birth Order by Kevin Lehman, and he often talks about how wherever you fit in your family will determine your character, the way you socialize in the world, and the people that you decide to marry, whether it's going to be a rocky marriage or whether it's going to be a smooth marriage. All right, whether you're the baby child, the middle child, the oldest child, or the only child. And it determines by how close you were to your parents. And were you overly nurtured by mother, or the father was overly militant, all right, or under nurtured or under fathered, okay? Determine how you may act when you at wit's end, when you're so sick that you feel like you're going to die. All right, that will determine what you're thinking about, your thought process, or whose name do you call. You understand what I'm saying? So good to see you, Angel. So as I got older, though, Travell Bennett, I did not call my mother's name when I got deathly sick. What's the name of the book again, Dolores? It's called The Birth Order. The Birth Order by Kevin Lehman, Dr. Kevin Lehman. It's a great book. I wish I had it out. I usually keep it on my shelf nearby because I reference it quite often. All right. But you can just go to my book, and in my book, I talk about the birth order in chapter 1. All right. You go to Amazon.com and buy that book. And I pretty much break down what he said in the Birth Order book. As a matter of fact, my chapter 1 is called the Birth Order chapter. If you can see there, I got the Birth Order chapter, and I talk about why was it that I acted the way I did with the women that I dated and the women that I married. And it was based off of the Birth Order chapter. Okay, today I want to talk about in my book this woman here, girl C. All right, girl C is his soulmate. All right, that is his soulmate, and this woman here determines a lot. You're welcome, Dolores. All right. It determines a lot. Some men still over nurtured, but sucking on mom's breast, still living with mom, and car is in mom name. Oh, the car is in mom's name. Kia Karen on YouTube. You are absolutely right. Gigi Soapboxer, that's a book. That's a bookshelf standard. She's talking about the book, The Birth Order book by Kevin Lehman. Yeah, that is definitely a standard. Yeah, I'm ordering this for my collection. Regina Grant, awesome. The Birth Order. All right, so that Birth Order book. So I would suggest you have 2 books in your library. Have the Birth Order by Kevin Lehman on the left, and have the Sirwalterj Jones For Women That Men Desire on the right. All right. Why do you need them both? Because Kevin Lehman go into the book sense psychological aspects of where you fit in your family, how you were born, where area you are. My book, I go into why, in detail, why men love you the way they do or not love you. Why they marry you and then treat you the way they treat you. All right. And why is that there are 4 women that he will compare you to. So you need both books. You need them. All right. So in this chapter that I talk about on page 54, if you have the book, I talk about the soulmate and what she is to him, and why do men revert back to boyhood. They could be 80 years old, but the boy never leaves the man. And I demonstrate that throughout the book, but especially on the girl C, the woman that he marries, or the woman that he's shacking up with. It might be common law, all right? And I break it down in 7 points. What? Oh, I said Regina. My bad. That's Reginald Grant. I sometimes I be reading this thing so fast. I'm sorry, Reginald. You are in no way a Regina. In the birth order, can you count miscarriages between children? Just learned that I wasn't the first child. Oh wow, that's a good one. That's a great question there, and I think psychologically, I believe in my heart, because I've dated a woman. I dated a woman who did lose a child, but she felt that she had the child. You understand? She felt that she had the child, and the child was growing, and she kept referring back to the child, and it was like the child was alive, and then meaning it was born, and then it was being raised, and then the child died, and she was treating this child as such. Evangelist Robin, the name of my book is The 4 Women That Men Desire. All right? Right there. The 4 Women That Men Desire by Sirwalterj Jones. Okay? All right? So, George Floyd called his mom's name, and there was a reason why, because what we revert back to, Jesus on the cross referred back to 2 people. Okay, you're welcome, Evangelist. Jesus Christ referred back to two cases. Number one, he said, Father, he said, if he quoted from Psalms, he says, why have you forsaken me? All right. Patrick Edward, blessing to you, elder. He asked the question, it seems like it was a question of despair. Yeah, he did, Travell. It seems like it was a question of despair, but it was not a question of despair. He says, why have you forsaken me? All right, now God did not forsake him, but it was a song Jesus was referring back to, and he often did that while he was on the earth. He often referred back to prophecies or prophets or the Torah. All right. And he questioned the disciples and those Pharisees and Sadducees and whomever. He quoted from the Torah. All right. And so he quoted from David's song. And the song is not a song of despair, but it's a song of hope. Why have you forsaken me? And then he saw his mother standing there. And then he gave directions towards the disciple that was there for the safety of his mother. All right, and he told his mother, behold, your son. Where is that? Go to John chapter 19. Some women get caught up in the men's abs and muscles and don't take the time to listen to his mental state. Kia, that's it. All right. So that's what happened on the cross. There was Jesus there speaking about his mom. All right. Because Jesus was 100% man and 100% God. He was not half man, half God. So you can't be half pregnant. Kevin gave a blessing to you. Thank you, sir. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Now, there is something I want to read that I found. It's talking about why do men call on their moms right before they die? To assess people's mental condition just before death. This thing says they divided people into 10 occupational categories: statesmen, philosophers, poets, etc. Okay, and quoting their last words as sarcastic or content and so forth. This guy, McDonald, who did the study, found that military men had the relatively highest number of requests, directions, or admonitions, while philosophers, who included mathematicians and educators, had the most questions and answers in exclamations. But the religious and royalty use the most words to express contentment or discontentment. But we who are artists and scientists, I'm not a scientist, but we use the fewest words right before death, or while we think we're getting ready to die. We use so those who are religious expressed either contentment or discontentment. And it seems strange to be religious and love God, depending on what the religious they're talking about. But I know some Christians who are at deathbed and they're continuing to asking questions, yet they should be content. Yeah, looking at the video, the officer was still crushing the guy's neck while his body was lifeless, Jolly. Yes, absolutely. All right, so many people die in such silence, particularly if they have advanced dementia or Alzheimer's that robbed them of language years earlier. So for those who do speak, it seems their vernacular is often banal. So from a doctor, I heard that people often say, OF, they use words like that. But often it's the names of their wives or their husbands or their children. A nurse from the hospice told me that the last words of a dying man often resembles each other. Okay, this guy says, almost everyone is calling for mommy or mama with their last breath. All right, so this is something that happens often by men who are in the military and they're getting ready to die. They call on their moms. I see why you brought up the birth order. Yep, it does matter how close you are. And yep, my mom would not be who I call at death. Jesus is there it is, Travail. So when I felt like I was getting ready to die, I didn't call mom anymore as I got older. Why? Because my relationship with God, my relationship with Christ became closer than my relationship with my parents, whether my mom or my dad, okay? It became closer than anybody. So then when I began to feel like I was getting ready to die, I began to call on the Lord and not my mom. Now, that didn't take away from my mom, because at my mom's funeral, I was thinking more so about my mom than I was God, because I don't cry. I mean, I'm not the crying type. But at my mom's funeral, when I thought I was going to be the strongest, and I thought this guy was going to cry, I thought my sister was going to cry and weep and fall all over the place. Out of the 9 children, I was the one weeping and gnashing of teeth at my mom's funeral. All right. Somebody just hugged me. My auntie hugged me, and I busted out in weeping, and I couldn't control myself. What was that? That was years of bottled up emotion in me. And number 2, I kept thinking I'll never see my mom again. And so the memory of my mom caused this emotion to come over me. Y'all understand. While my mother was transitioning, we sang hymns and worship Delma Conley. And that's what we did at my grandmother's bedside and my mother's bedside. They passed just a few months. My grandmother died in the summer, and my mom died in the winter. And we sang hymns at the hospital, and the nurses was like, "Wow, this is emotional." Okay, and we just all night we just sang hymns, and as we watched her take her last breath, wow, that absolutely not the crying type, except at my mom's funeral. PH4 Abel, yeah, busted out, bawling, yeah, lost of mom will break down the strongest. Kendrick Scales is saying, I can't read this week. I don't understand why. Yeah. I didn't think that about you. You seem more sensitive because of your calling. No, Travail, yes, I'm very sensitive, but you won't see it. There is this thing in me. It comes from my father. It comes from the Joneses. You don't really see us get too emotional outwardly. You might see that in church. You might see us praise God in church, but on a normal day, Monday through Saturday, we're very bold, but yet compassionate. All right, but you won't see us crying. We're just not crybabies. I'm just not that way. But I will speak compassionate words to you to show you that I feel your heart, but I won't cry. All right, not in public, no. But I will cry alone. And many times I've sat in this office and sat back in this chair and I cried. For whatever reason it was my time alone to cry. And then I wiped my tears and I went live and I began to be bold. All right. And these are the things that Jesus did himself. I believe he went back to the garden to cry. All right. He wept. All right. He was sorrowful. But when he went before the people, he was bold and he did the things that his father told him to do. You understand? It's okay to cry as a man, but I get it. Yeah. Women like to say that. It's okay to cry as a man. Yeah. Women love to say that. For everything, there is a time. That was your time to honest mourn. Thank you, Carolyn Keys. Yes. Carolyn, that is it. I lost my godmother last night. Wow, I cried. Kendrick Scales, praying for you, brother. Wow, I am definitely praying for you. See, stuff like that, that gets to my heart right there when I hear people who've lost someone, and then I cry inside. Now I'm gonna be thinking about Kendrick Scales most of the day because he's my dear friend, right? And I'm gonna be thinking about what pain he may be feeling. And that's how I cry. I cry for other people, and I may mope around because of someone else that experienced death. That is the connection that God has placed in the people of God. All right, we mourn with those who mourn, we weep with those who weep, and we rejoice with those who rejoice. Why people love, care, and concern when folks are dying, but while they are alive, it's not the same. They can see, touch. Yes, Evangelist Robin Campus, that is the mentality of all men since Adam. That is the way we are. We don't take stock in the living. We take stock more so in the dying. And some people are worth more. They're not just worth more financially. They're worth more in our hearts dead than they are alive. And so then when they die, we come to the realization that that is reality, and then we weep. You understand? So George Floyd wept or he cried for his mom because he knew this is it for me. I cried more at the loss of my mother than my father. This doesn't mean I loved him any less because my father was strong. Yes, P.J. Johnson. Yes, that is it. That is exactly it. I'm with you on that. That's how I am, regardless of the emotion. Hallelujah. Anyhow, I love my Facebook friends. Their names. I mean, my YouTube friends. I love their names, man. Y'all be picking some beautiful names. All right. So this article here. Let me show you this. Okay. Let me show you this here. Why do some soldiers call for their mothers when they are dying on the battlefield? Okay, this is an article I found. And some of them, there were great answers here. I saw some great answers here, but I was particularly drawn to, was it the last one? I think more people have commented on. I don't remember seeing this many. I think after I must have refreshed it, there were more answers. But there was one in particular that I did find interesting. Where was it? I think this is it here. There was an expression I read once: wars are fought against mothers. This one right here was the one I found particularly interesting. Okay. It made me think in my tracks because all mothers are the victims in all war through their children. The loss of the ones they gave life to, no loss could be greater. Soldiers in the world wars who fought close enough to hear the other side hand-to-hand combat or in the trenches remarked that they were surprised that enemy soldiers, when they were dying, called for their mothers. Why do they call for their mothers? We all came into life, and for the first love we felt was our mothers. When we die in war, we are alone, scared, feeling fear, loss, and anxiety, and we reach for the first love, the unconditional love that might soothe our conscience, our soul. We cry out to her, the first to hold us, soothe us, love us, the first to tell us everything is going to be okay. And it makes me think how all human beings are the same. How could we not end war for good? Well, the sad answer is that there is so much profit in it, and he goes on his spiel there, okay? And he's correct there to say that even the enemy was also calling on their moms when they were met with death. Yes, you're telling the truth. My late mother, Mrs. Grant, was emotionally closest to me. Sorry, my eyes are blurry, so I can hardly see y'all. I was her third child of 5, who also functioned as the oldest. Even still today, Reginald Grant is saying here. I called your name properly this time. My eyes are blurry. A real mother's love is never last, regardless. P.J. Johnson is saying, okay? So that's what's happening. So it doesn't matter how evil a person is. Even the most of evil people have an emotion. John Wayne Gacy still loved. Adolf Hitler still loved. He loved his wife. It's recorded that he had one wife and he loved her to death. They died together, although that's what they said, okay? All right, there are the most tyrant of people, of men, okay? Even though they may be killing a whole bunch of people, they still love, because there is something that God put in all of us to love. All right, some people love their dogs more than they love humans. I know a lot of people who are against. Of course, we all should obviously be against the killing of babies, meaning abortion. We should be against that. But I know many of my white friends who will stand at that Planned Parenthood line to stop women from coming in there to kill their babies, and they will rally on social media against abortion until the baby is born. All right, until the black baby is born, and then the baby is forgotten. And when the baby or the child grows up to become a teenager, then they don't fight as hard for that. Once the child gets into the system, they don't fight as hard, but they will fight almost to death for the unborn child life. And that is the unfortunate disaster mentally that we are dealing with in America. Tears of empathy, wait, saying here, tears of empathy sometimes trigger people to tears more than sympathetic tears for our own selves, because when you have the true fruit of the Spirit, it reigns supreme, and what you feel and your pain supersedes mine. Your pain supersedes mine. It is truly an act of selfishness. Yep, that is exactly true. That is so true. So many articles. That was Amber Rogers, by the way, for those of you on YouTube. Wendy King, blessings to you. Yep, hypocrites. Yes. And that is so unfortunate. George Floyd death caused a lot of people to come out of the woodworks, out of the closets. All right. One side is making him a horrible man who probably deserved to die because he might have forged a check, or he might have had a bad grade, or he might have smoked crack at one time. You know, they will try to ruin his character, which proves that he should have died. And it may not be that drastic on the surface, but those of you who are awake and see conservative radio, conservative media, those who are on the side of the police, okay, this is a culture of hate and fear. And I'll be doing a show, hopefully maybe tomorrow, on the culture of fear. There's a culture of fear within the black community, and there's a culture of fear within the white community, and there's a culture of fear in the police. It starts in the police academy, and then it's on the police force, and then it's where the police live. that culture of fear is there, which caused this kind of death to happen to a man like George Floyd. All right, so it's a perfect storm in America, and it didn't start yesterday. It's been that way since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The whole point of that kind of deflection is to diminish the atrocities. That's it. That's it. A keto fit for life. Yes. So they will make him look worth death, and then the other side will make him a god or an angel or a saint. And if there's a picture of him holding a Bible at any time, all right, then they will say, see, this is Jesus Christ's child, birth. All right, so both sides will try their best to come up with some type of storyline to fit the reason of he should not have died or he should have died. He's worthy to be praised and everybody marched in the streets, or he was worthy to be kneed to death. All right, both sides go to the extreme to prove a point, and this is the culture of all of us. And it's hard to talk about it because depending on who my audience is, it may be a step on your foot, your feet, or your fetuses. Yeah, that officer was okay with him suffering. There was no serve and protect. Patrick Edward, okay? So the anger from many of y'all is obvious. It's apparent. It is here. We're angry. What's the solution? Because there must be an answer. Karen says the answer has to be in the balance. I said it, and then she said it. Yes, hallelujah. Anyhow, it's character assassination. That is the ploy. That is the system that we live in, and you got to just be ready for that. You just got to be ready for that, okay? All right? So, the George Floyd called his mom. In marriages, this is what happens. The husband reverts back into a boy, and the wife turns in to who? Can y'all tell me in the comment section? In a marriage, the husband reverts into a boy, but the wife turns into who? Put it in the comments. Can y'all tell me? All right, this is a pop quiz. I want to see who wins this. Who wins this? Huh? Can y'all tell me? Who do the wife turn into? Thank you, Evangelist Robin. You got it. You got it. You're the first one at least to come in, but the rest of you are coming in now. The mom. All right. Dolores says the mom. Carolyn says the mom. All right. Tonil says the mom. All right. Okay. The mother. Many of us say the mother. Now, can y'all tell me then, if the wife turns into the mother, why do the wife turn into the mother? All right. Now, this has everything to do with logic. Okay. Why do the wife turn into the mother? Now, watch this. The wife don't turn into the mother mostly until she becomes a wife. When they're dating, she's not really the mother. When she's dating, she's like the sister. Y'all like, that's not right. She's more like the sister or one of the boys. When she becomes the wife, she becomes the mother. Can y'all tell me why? Wendy says there has to be a solution in empowering our people with truth, knowledge, and some kind of way. Wendy King says, amen there. Victoria Dubois, blessings to you. Nikki Grays. What's Nick? Is that? Were you tagging someone? I'm not sure. It shows up differently in my comments. Kia says the nurturing component. Yes, but why though? Evangelist, so do we get a prize? Can y'all tell me why does she turn into the nurturing component though? He needs to be nurtured at times. Marcia, yes. Keto Fit says, yes, we are angry, but what are we going to do about it? Yes. Tanil says he looks to her to be the caretaker. Okay, when you were tagging, yeah, it looks different on my end. Keto says that is basically hopelessness. Yes. Dolores says most of the men are not fully developed into a man. Dolores, as offensive to some men as that comment was, you are absolutely correct. Correct. Amber Ryder says because that's why he chose her. Yep. For her potential nurturing and stability. Yes. The wife is afraid he will go back to mom. Kia said, yeah. All right. No, Wendy, don't be sorry. It just looks different on my end. I thought you was referring to someone. It doesn't show the blue link when you tag on my end. So keep tagging. I want people to see this. She becomes his strength, Pitts. Yes. Carolyn says because he has a deficit in his needs to be nurtured, he is still a boy in many ways. I'm trying to tell y'all are on this thing. Y'all are on it, Carolyn. That's it. There's a deficit there. Key point, Danny Perry says, yes, he reverts back to boyhood. It never left him, though. All right? Here's the thing. Lawrence, good to see you, nephew. And when I talked about that in my chapter, I laid out 7 points. And I say she is the one. Under she is the one, she doesn't ask him for anything. She remembers his words. She edifies him. He trusts her with all that he has. Okay? I talk about she nurtures him. She cares about his total well-being. He's physically attracted to her. All right? That's all under the first point. The second point, I said, she loves him unconditional. And it goes on and on. These are the things that she's doing for him. And who do he see while she's doing these things? Who does he see? Amber says men never lose the little boy in them and will always need the balance. Yep, that's it. I have gotten angry now. I refuse to be my husband's mother. I'm putting down. Terrell, I'm sorry to tell you, you will forever be his mom. That's just the way it is. Forever. Donald says, not always true. I'm a protector and provider, but when I'm sick or not feeling well, I desire to be nurtured. Donald Trent, yeah, that's true. It's not always true, but it is true. Because you said it's not always true, but then you said you need some nurturing. Yeah, Evangelist Robin said, we are babies. Yes, we are. Yes, Dolores, he sees his mother. She's answering my question. She sees his mother as in his wife. That's exactly it. All a part of protection and love of mother. Wendy King, that's it. Logan, his mother. So all these things I mentioned in the book, she's doing all these things unconsciously. She's doing it because women are natural nurturers. Mostly they're natural nurturers. Okay, so she wants to give him a happy life. She wants to give him all the things that he wants and needs. So she nurtures him, and what it does is it triggers his mom. All right, so when it triggers his mom, what is he expecting? He's expecting this all the time. What does it do? Sometimes it weakens him to a point where he don't take care of responsibilities at home. When two people, a husband and a wife, have children, okay, so what happens is the father treats him differently than the mother, and the father uses competition to raise the child. The mother uses nurture. The father don't use nurture. And I noticed that when I was raising my children, I was very nurturing to my children, more than the average father. All right, I hugged my children a lot. I kissed my children a lot. I laid in the bed with my children. All right, I rubbed their faces and I rubbed their backs, and I rocked them to sleep. When they were up in age, I was still doing that. So I was a little more nurturing as a man than the average guy. Yes, but when I needed them to get things done, even there were chores that I needed. I made it a competition. I made it a race. I did things that I noticed that my father did for me. All right. My father made it a challenge to do things that I should be doing, but he made it a challenge. My mother didn't really make it a challenge. She just rubbed her face, baby, do this for me, and I did it. My father, no, he's like, hey, listen, here's how we're gonna do this. So he used mathematics, he used logic, he used games, okay, to get me to do these things. So when you are raised that way, you tend to raise your children the same way, all right? And so when a husband and wife come together and they have a child, if the wife has been nurturing me, all right, it's just us, we're married, and she's been nurturing me. When we have our first child, what happens is that first child actually is the second child in the house. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? If we're two married, all right, we have no children, we have the first child. That first child is actually the second child in the house. And I can prove it by my actions when I was married. Yeah, Lawrence says, you cooked as well. I sure did. Lawrence lived right next door to me. So I did the cooking, the cleaning. I did all this stuff because I worked at night. I was an entertainer, a musician. I was an entrepreneur. All right, my wife worked during the day. So my children saw me all day long. So I did a lot of the nurturing until mom got home and I turned them over to her. All right. I mean, yeah, I want to be taken care of, but I want to give the same thing back in a whole manner, Lawrence says. Judon says, stay focused. Don't lose your head. We have to regenerate our, what do you say, our communities? Protect each other. Yes. Teach and promote each other. Yes. All right. Let me see. My husband made a mistake years ago and called me mom. Ooh, I was like, what did you call me? Wendy King? Now, that wasn't a mistake. You got to understand, that wasn't a mistake. A key point, a child of mine was crying. Her dad did not comfort her. She'll be, what? I can't hardly see y'all because it's during the day and the lights are brighter than it is at night for some reason. I can't see what y'all saying. She will be all right. Oh, I loved on her. Okay, yeah. Sometimes it's the way y'all type as well. Let me see. You have opened my eyes and it's explaining why the anger brew. I'm sorry to cause anger in you, but if your husband is calling you mom, that ain't a mistake. Nope. Keto Fit says there is a lot of functional crossover of mothers and wives. Sure is. For a man to look at his woman as his mother is certain emotional instances. Is the highest compliment, thank you, that he can give her, because in that moment he sees her as his everything. She is his fortress, his backbone, and he is totally submitted to her strength. There it is. That's why I said it's not a mistake. Yeah, it's not. When he said, really? Yeah, it's not a mistake. Did you see what Roger said? That is the highest compliment a man can give you. If he is looking for you to do those nurturing things for him, he's trying to tell you, I feel safe, I feel needed, wanted, I feel cared for, a sense of belonging. All right, I need you, all these things. So if he slip up and call you mom, it's because you're the thing that he looks to. When I say thing, you know what I mean. I think most women, especially these who with good fathers look for their fathers in a man, we all do it without knowing. Yep. So is there a father side? Yes. It could be if the man has the wisdom as a man. Yep. Lawrence. Yes. Your grandmother looked to your grandfather as a father and a husband. Y'all saying what? I'll explain that in a minute. Yeah, I'll explain it in a minute. So the boy needing nurturing. Yep. And the man, leader, provider is in a struggle. Lord, I needed this. Kelly Keys. Yes. Yep. Okay. We have to take some blame for this because as a wife started out trying to nurture, raise, counsel, teach, instruct, and lead our husbands. Yep, this should be already in him. Yes, Dolores, that's it. That's good. Lawrence, to answer your question, or I think it was the question you asked, my mother, okay, was raised up in Little Rock, Arkansas, by a father who wasn't really well. He died early in life. Okay, so she was raised by my dear mostly. Okay, she was around women. She was around my dear, and then of course her grandmother as well. All right, and then they adopted a sister in the house. All right, and so she was young when my mother and father married. They were very young. My mother was like 17, when they married. All right, so she didn't really have an opportunity to be on her own. Okay, so my father come up on a very hardcore situation where he was the only brother out of all sisters. My father was the only boy out of 5 in the family. He was the only one. All right, and so he came up under a situation where he was a fatherly figure to his sisters. He defended, he protected them when they were out there being, in fights. They called on Larry. That's my father. My father's name is Lawrence. They called Larry. All right. So when my father fell in love with my mother, he began to father her. Y'all like, okay, this is weird. No, it ain't. This is actually biblical. This is actually biblical. He fathered my mom. All right. And my father gave my mother the fathering that she was looking for. In return, my mother gave my father the nurturing that he was looking for, because my father wasn't really nurtured from his mom. Like this is my assessment. I don't believe emphatically that my father was nurtured in the way that he needed from my grandmother, because my grandmother was very famous. She was like, she was the star of Chicago. She was a famous prophetess, and she traveled a lot, and people were always singing to her. So she could not nurture my father. So my father's father was the one that was raising my father. All right. So my mother and father came together. It was a perfect situation because they both were needy. All right. So my mother was being raised by her husband. Y'all think this is weird, don't you? Yep, Evangelist Robin, Sarah called Abraham Lord. Yes. All right. So my mother, when I was born, my father was doing fatherly things to my mom. Lawrence, he says, okay, I'm back. You missed all what I was saying. I said a whole lot to answer you, and you went away. Yeah, granddad called her mother. There it is, Lawrence. There it is. My father called my mother. He always called her that. All right. Thank you, Flora. She said, no, it's not strange. He always called her mother. My father taught my mother how to cook. My father was the first one to get my mother's ears pierced. My father taught my mother how to drive. How do I know? I was alive during that time, and it freaked us out because we was in the back seat of the car while my father was teaching her how to drive while we in the car, and we were freaking out. Okay, my father took her on trips that she'd never been to. All right, they traveled all around the country. Okay, all right, she had never did that. She never experienced that before. So my father was raising up his own daughter in a sense, but that was his wife. All right. In return, my mother was giving him all of the nurturing that he needed. And it caused my father to be different. When he was in the room with my mother, he was a different man. If my mother was not in the room, he was very militant, very bold, always on point, on par, very logistic, he was everything. He had the answer to all of the questions, all of the problems, until my mother walked in the room and we saw a humble, subservient we saw a little boy when my mother walked in the room, and they were always hugging on each other, always kissing on each other, always petting on each other, always spooning one another. Okay, my father didn't have that, but in my mom he had that. That was the trade-off with both of them, and that went on for 60 years until my mother died. All right, on her deathbed, my father was holding my mom. All right, that was the perfect situation. Yes, yep, humbled down. He humbled himself. All right, when my mom walked in the room. So if my father was upset with us, All right, and often he was, because I was a rascal. He was he was upset with us. He wanted to beat us, or he wanted to chastise us, correct us, or what have you. He was upset because all these boys in the house, we were always doing something stupid. We were begging for mom to walk in the room because we knew that things would change on our behalf. All right. While she was not there, and sometimes we would be on the job. My father was a carpenter, and we would be on a job with him, and he would pick up that hammer, do this, do that, and we were like, okay, we got it. And sometimes mom would show up at the job site, and it was the greatest moment in our lives. Because when mama showed up, then my father would be like, son, pick that up. Okay, son, come here. Do this. He was so softer. And we loved it. It makes sense when you think about the balance that's needed with relationships. We're all in need of these emotional things that our parents are supposed to provide. If the nurture or even discipline is missing, it causes a void within the relationship. That's it. It's all about balance, y'all. God gave her and grandma something he always wanted. Yep. Tenderness and affection. That's it, Lawrence. God gave my father that. He needed that. He didn't just want it. He needed that, and my mother gave him the tenderness that he needed because it was missing. That was a marriage there made in heaven. Yep, the softer side of him, Belinda. When a husband and a wife come together the way God intended, although we are complete, hopefully alone, but together, one has the missing knowledge, etc. Yes, that's exactly it. So my point was that when two people come together, they have a child. The child becomes the second child because the husband is the child in that house. I was the child in my house. Before my son Walter Jr. was born, my wife, I looked to her for the nurturing. And then when my son was born, then she began to spend that time with my son and not with me. And I felt left out. That is common among most situations, unless the wife finds a balance on how to take care of the husband and take care of the first child. So then the child became the second child, just like how I felt when my brother Dwayne was born. I was a child for 5 long years. All right. I was the baby child for 5 long years. I had 3 brothers above me, and I got away with everything, including murder. When the spankings were passed out, I didn't get the spanking. Okay. 5 long years until one day I woke up and there was a baby laying on the couch in my mother's arms, sucking my mother's breast, and I got offended by it. Yes, Cortez Little, bless it to you. Your mama was truly the neck that turned your daddy's big head. Yep, she was the Edith Bunker. There it is. There has to be a way to love a child and each together. Yes. I talk about the Edith Bunker effect a lot. I did a whole show on the Edith Bunker effect, and I think I need to go back and do that again. It's on my Spreaker.com account, the Edith Bunker effect. I talk about Edith Bunker in this book here towards the end, the last chapter, okay? The Renewed Mind. I talk about the Edith Bunker effect. Why? Because that was my mom. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find it here, and then we can all go home. Okay, y'all already at home. Let me see. See if I can find it here. Edith Bunker effect. I don't know. Will it show up? I want y'all to go here. Bunker. Oh, here it is. I call it the men who love Edith Bunker. All right. If you go there, you'll hear my story. I did a few episodes on a series on the men who love Edith Bunker, the men who love Weezy Jefferson. I think I did the men who love Claire Huxtable, the men who love, I looked at all of those people. All right. So right there, you can go there and you can watch that. It's audios. All right. And listen to that show. And that shows you why I wrote the way I wrote in the book. And why were men in love with Edith Bunker? Here's the thing. They did not really find Edith Bunker some type of video vixen. She was not, a Coca-Cola bottle, all that stuff, okay? She was not any of that, no. Men were attracted to Edith Bunker because how she handled Archie and how he responded to her when she really needed him to do something. Men in America says, I want that girl. And that's why in my book, I talk about the 4 women. The first woman is the side chick who he won't marry. All right. And she's beautiful. She's sexy, but he won't marry her. I talk about the mistress on whom he may marry her, but he's not happy because she's looking for something different in that marriage than he is. And the third woman, girl C, he marries her even though she may not be as beautiful as the first girl or the second girl. She may be a plain Jane. She wear plain clothes. She's not into your high societal events. She's not into name brand anything. She's just plain Jane like Edith Bunker. But that is the woman he falls in love with. That is the woman he'll lay his life down for her. Why? You have to buy the book. Yep. You got to buy the book. What he's saying here, at the age I'm at now, I could actually be the wife and mother. I wasn't at 20. I was broken and immature. Dana Perry, that's good. That's good stuff. And the voice though. The voice. All right. Okay, yeah, that Edith voice will have you cuss. And she changed her voice over the seasons. When the first season, her voice was very low, and she was very serious. They told her to raise her voice, and in the next seasons, she raised her voice and became more dingbatish because they needed that, and I'm glad that they did that. Yes. Thank you, Amber Rogers. She put the clip there, the Edith Bunker effect. Tonight, look at that show, at least listen to the show and hear how we broke it down and why this is y'all. Cold quit. I'm late at this conversation. It is important having the male and female in raising children, healthy male bonding and healthy female bonding. Yep, that helps towards social and nurturing relationships. RW Cold quit. You're never late. You're right on time. That's good stuff. Kevin says, from what I understand, he was murdered on the same day his mother died. Wow. I didn't know that. All right. And whether that is the truth or not, he still would have called his mom's name because this is typical of men who getting ready to die. Yes, the proof of how much he needed her was the scene when she died. Carolyn Keys, I talk about that in that show. Carolyn Keys, when you get a chance, go to that link Amber Rogers put up there and watch that show. All right? And I talk about that episode and why it affected Archie the way it did. If y'all understand the theology of Edith Bunker, you will understand why men stay in marriages like that, because my mom was like Edith Bunker in many ways. She got my daddy to do things that none of us could get him to do. She got him to do it every time. All right? Every time. That's the Edith Bunker effect, and it works even today. Why? It doesn't matter the millennials, how they act. It doesn't matter about Generation X and Z's. And all. It doesn't matter what situation we're up under, psychological situations, none of that. Edith Bunker's theology works in every situation and in every culture. It works. It works because it was biblical. You understand? And it's called evergreen. It works because what evergreen? My book is an evergreen book. Okay? Evergreen meaning I don't have to rewrite it. I don't have to update it. All right. I don't need to. There are other books that come after this, but not because they're rewrites. They're because they are a continuation of these girls. But this is an evergreen book. The Bible is an evergreen book. y'all try to change it. Y'all be trying to change it. I'm going to watch it as soon as we're done here. Carolyn Keys, thank you. Yes, again, it's an audio, so you'll have to listen to it, but pay close attention to this. I play some of the episodes in that. All right, it's a 2-hour show, so get ready. But I play some of the episodes and I show you how she handled him, and that will help you understand how, maybe your mother handled your father. My husband and I were watching and talking about her last night. Wow, that's why black women lose their black men to them. Yep, Wendy. Wendy. You in trouble for that. You in trouble, but you are correct. Again, the clock keeper telling me my time is up. But again, when you understand the Edith Bunker effect and how she got Archie, a known racist and bigot, all right, how she got him to do the things that he did not want to do, should tell you why many black men run to these white women. Wendy King said it. I just expounded on it. Yeah. Why? I'm trying to tell y'all. Now, this comment here is going to cause a lot of thumbs down. But it's true. I'm trying to tell y'all it's true. So my mother was black, and she just naturally had the Edith Bunker effect in her. And she got my father. I just amazed how she was able to do that. They must learn to speak to them, not at them. Yeah, Wendy, she said, we said the same thing. All right, y'all. Listen, I'm going to get up out of here before I'm crucified at the cross. Hey, if you want to continue to support the ministry, there's the app there. If I helped you in any way, form, or fashion, there's the app there. The Sirwalterj is the Cash App. Go ahead and give, and it'll help me buy some more equipment, and so that I can do spectacular things in my office to wow you, to get you to change and to do things that you need to do. All right. But he had a white girlfriend. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Raymond. I appreciate you, man, coming by here. All right. So let me close this. Continue to pray for the Georges, the family of the slain. All right. This was a criminal act. This was murder, cold blood. Yes, they were trying to find some footage here and there of why he deserved to do this, he deserved to do that. We've seen the footage. We've seen enough of the footage to see that this is cold murder. We've heard from the government that Minnesota, those in political offices, all are lining up with us. Most, if not all, but many of them are saying this was cold-blooded murder, and this man needs to be put in prison for this. So that's understandable. Now, rightfully so, a man is innocent until proven guilty in our court system, and so he has to go through that stage. Let him go through it with the hopes that he is convicted of murder. All right, and then justice will be served. We still, as Christians, must forgive even this case. It's hard to talk about this stuff when you're enraged. It's hard when that woman, that the brother of the brother hugged the white cop who killed his brother. It was difficult to see that because of we being African Americans. I did that show already. People hated the show. Some people hated the show because I was bringing in my spiritual views. God is a God who loves us all. And on the cross, all of us were worthy of death. And while we were yet in sin, he died for us. He commended his love, the Bible says, while we were yet in sin. All right. And if we can't see the cross action and forgive, then we are worse than infidels. We are the worst people on the earth. To see that you were in your mess and God was going to kill you, but decided to send his son to die on your behalf. You must forgive, but justice still must be served. The thief on the cross still had to die for his crime. He was right next to Christ, and Christ says, today you will be with me in paradise. God forgave him, but he still had to die. This man still must be punished for his actions. Justice must be served, But in the midst of it, you must forgive. Because if you don't forgive, God cannot and will not forgive you. All right. They were groomed to be, I don't know what y'all saying here. I'm preaching now, so I can't read any more fights. All right. All right. So I got to go. Yes. Say so, sir. Forgiveness is important. Yes. All right. So that's the last say. Forgiveness is important. And if you can't forgive, that tells us all where you stand with your relationship with Christ. Your relationship with Christ should always be walking in forgiveness. Let justice serve, but continue to forgive. Unforgiveness is a deadly disease. You got the last say, evangelist. I appreciate you. I love y'all. Hit the share button. Hit the share button and share the gospel all around the world. About 75 of y'all left. You on YouTube, go ahead and destroy the like button. Destroy it. Pow! I mean, destroy it and to smithereens. Yeah, that right there. And share this on Facebook and let the people hear the psychological aspects of why men call on their moms and when they know they're getting ready to die. Tomorrow, they'll talk about another aspects of the culture of fear. All right? I love y'all. And I'll see you tonight on Tennille Jackson's show, 7 o'clock. Tennille Jackson, myself, Elder Rodney Jones, and a few of the other brothers will be talking about this pandemic. All right? Just keep watching on my wall. Angel, love you. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Goodbye. 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 Enjoy yourself. Goodbye. Goodbye.